welcome to Information Please, your Peoria Public Library on the air, bringing you information about your library and your community. This evening, my guest is Ron Ziemba from SeniorNet, and I'm so excited he could join us because we've been putting out his publicity about computers for a long time, so this is great. Hi, Ron.
Hello, Tricia.
I really wanted you to come on the show, and I felt like it took a little bit of arm twisting, but here you are at last.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
SeniorNet does such great work for the community and provides a service that just isn't available out there. So why don't you tell me about SeniorNet?
Okay. First of all, SeniorNet is a national organization that operates with local chapters.
Okay. So let's start with that, and we're going to have some great pictures here. And so this is your website. So tell me about the national organization and what it does.
All right, this is the national organization. This is the website of the national organization. And I wanted to start with some of the things that we see on this website. On the first page here, we see the SeniorNet logo in the upper left-hand corner, and we use that logo in all of our documents, letterheads, etc. In the middle of the screen, you see the SeniorNet mission, and that really tells the whole story. SeniorNet's mission is to provide seniors with computer education so that they can enhance their lifestyle and also share their knowledge with others, because obviously they've been around a while and they know quite a bit.
And need to take advantage of the new part.
That's right.
Okay, here's some more of the website.
Yes, so as we move further down the page here, there were a couple of things that I definitely wanted to emphasize and talk about. First of all, on the left-hand side, there is a blog with SeniorNet topics of interest to seniors. And for some of the examples that we had here were deteriorating eyesight. There was information about the iPhone, iPad, iPod, which seniors are very, very interested in. And this vision loss is a significant event because it makes it difficult for them to see the computer screen.
Yes.
And so you really need your glasses when you're trying to read the computer screen.
Yeah.
We also have resources for senior discounts, because the national organization does arrange discounts with people like Dell and Apple so that seniors can get a little bit of a discount on equipment that they're interested in purchasing. There's a section on privacy and security, because obviously identity theft and avoiding viruses are very, very big topics. And there is also a virtual senior center. And the virtual senior center is something of great interest, because I read in the AARP magazine a few years ago where on any given day in a large city like New York or Boston or Chicago, 2/3 of the seniors never leave their homes. So senior isolation is a big issue. And you have those who go out every day, so there are obviously some who maybe only get out once a week. And the idea of the chat room or the virtual senior center actually gives people a way to stay connected, to keep up on what's happening in the world. And essentially, it gives them something to do that they might not otherwise have to do, and it helps to break that isolation that they might be faced with.
Oh, yeah. Why do you think seniors don't go out?
That's a good question, and I have no answer to that.
It's the first thing that occurs to me
Oh,
as a person who looking forward to retirement at this point is, boy, I'd like to be able to stay home all day.
But some of it is also fear
mobility
in the larger cities.
Yeah.
There's fear, there's mobility, there are other issues that you would face in Chicago or New York, for example.
Yeah, big places like that.
Yeah.
Even in Peoria, probably.
Yeah, I suppose
People are a little bit afraid to get out. Okay.
And one of the other things that they're doing, and we're really interested in this one, is SeniorNet is now starting to do outreach to underserved groups. And one of the biggest groups that they're going out with is Indians. They're actually going out to Indian reservations, and they are setting up learning centers on the Indian reservations, because in general, Indians have not had easy access to computers. And the training. And if we know how to train old people, we can also train young people and teach them the same thing that we're teaching to the older folks, and they'll probably pick it up a lot quicker.
Yeah.
They're also working with setting up learning centers in the inner city. in places like Washington, D.C. and other areas where essentially there is a need and the people are underserved. So we're really getting into outreach, and this is something which has probably only started in the last 5 years. I didn't give the history, but SeniorNet has been around since 1985.
Okay.
And the Peoria Area Learning Center has been around since 1989. We are one of the oldest learning centers as part of SeniorNet.
Early adapters, that's
early
great.
adapters. And one more thing that the SeniorNet national organization does is they actually get curriculum for us. They do the curriculum for many of the classes that we share or whether we teach, but they also negotiate with people like Microsoft and Adobe, and maybe we'll get curriculums for them for their classes and their products, and we'll certainly get a lot of free software that we can then install on our sites and use for teaching.
Oh, that's great.
So it's very, very helpful in that respect.
Ah, okay.
All right, now we've talked about the national organization. Now let's move down to the local organization.
Yes.
The way that we operate is the national organization sponsors what they call learning centers. And we are the Peoria Area SeniorNet Learning Center. And this is one of the advertisements that we've done, or one of the brochures that we put out for our classes. Because the main thing that we do is we teach classes spring and fall. We have in the neighborhood of 20 classes which we're going to offer starting very shortly. They'll start the week of March 11th. And we probably have a repertoire of 30 classes, but we can't offer every class every semester because of the fact the need just isn't great enough. So we may have to do one certain classes in spring and certain classes in fall only. But again, we're doing these classes regularly, and that is the main thing that we do. We also occasionally will do a special seminar. We invite our sponsors are IEC and PNC Bank, to do seminars. And last year IEC did a seminar on the aging eye, which was extremely interesting. Again, because of the fact that the eye situation makes the computer challenging.
It does.
And PNC did one on estate planning, which is just absolutely fascinating, and taught us all kinds of things that we shouldn't be doing.
Yes.
And some of the problems that you can have if you don't do your estate planning properly.
Correctly, yeah. Well, what is it that makes your approach so different? Why do your group work?
One of the reasons that we are so successful in dealing with seniors is because of the fact that we use people that we call coaches. Coaches are there to assist the instructor in the class. I'll be standing in front of the room, for example, and lecturing to the class, and typically it's a hands-on class. Every student has his or her own computer, and we're saying do this or do that or do the other thing. And if they can't find the button on the screen that they're supposed to press, well, the coach will come over and will give them assistance and show them, here's where it is, click over here.
So what's known in the grade schools as a teacher's aid.
It's a teacher's aid.
You have coaches that function as a teacher's aid, and
absolutely.
right there.
And we try to have a 4-to-1 ratio, or maybe even sometimes a 3-to-1 ratio. I'm teaching a class with 12 now, and I usually have 3 or 4 coaches in there. And when we do the class critique at the end of the class, invariably the students will say the coaches were wonderful. They really made this class work for me.
That made it helpful. Where do you find coaches?
Typically, we get coaches from among our friends. We encourage our friends to come in and assist us. Or if we can also get coaches from students. Many of our students will take 2 or 3 classes, and by the time they've taken 3 classes, whether that's taken them a year, whether it's taken them 2 years, they've become quite proficient. And as a result of this proficiency, we'll ask them, would you like to coach? And a certain number of them will come on and will become coaches.
We'll say that. Oh, that's great. That's great.
So we're very fortunate in that respect.
Okay. Well, you mentioned sponsors, and you gave us initials. So let's talk about
IEC is Illinois Eye Center. And in fact, it was Dr. Sisher of the Illinois Eye Center who attended a conference in California in the mid-'80s, learned about SeniorNet, and said, we need to do that in Peoria. So Illinois Eye Center actually assigned one of their employees to head up the SeniorNet organization, and she, of course, recruited volunteers from the community to work with her. And as the years progressed now, in probably, well, I don't know, maybe 5 or 7 years ago, Illinois Eye Center pretty much stepped out of the picture. And the SeniorNet organization, the local Peoria area SeniorNet organization, now has its own board of directors. However, our sponsors, PNC Bank and IEC, or Illinois Eye Center, are very generous, because even though our organization is all volunteer, it still takes a certain amount of money to run the organization.
Yes.
And that is, we do some hardware, and we have hardware and software expenses for our main data center right now, which is the First Baptist Church on Lake Avenue in Peoria. And we also send out a newsletter twice a year for our spring and our fall classes. We send out a newsletter to the students explaining what the classes that we're going to have for the next semester are. We give them a schedule so they know when the classes will be offered, and they have all the documents and the paperwork that they can either do a mail-in registration, or we always have an open house before registration also, where we will invite the students in to answer any questions. We'll counsel them about what classes they should be taking and what classes are appropriate for them. And it just helps position us and position them better if we actually do the on-site registration and the on-site open house. But on the other hand, a student who has already taken a couple of classes probably knows very well what he or she wants to take next, and therefore they can handle the mail-in registration and not have any problems doing that.
Yeah. Well, and particularly when you're talking, that we've changed so much the way we communicate, and people who aren't used to the computer and that kind of thing often have always done business face-to-face.
Yes.
And so that's like the only way they really are comfortable doing that. So that's a great thing. We try to do that at the library too, where, you know, yes, you can call, yes, you can use our databases, but you can walk up to the desk and talk to a person who will help you find whatever you're looking for, find the answers to questions. And it's pretty much, you know, scattered across the board. You know, you've got people who only want an answer by text message. You have people who want to do everything online from home, and then you have people who are much more comfortable face-to-face with a person. So,
and we find that that comfort level is something that really is important with seniors.
Yes,
it's
absolutely
more important than with the younger folk who are accustomed to more of the different methods of communication that the seniors haven't experienced yet.
Yes, exactly. So you mentioned the First Baptist Church, but where are your main facilities?
Well, right now our main facility is the First Baptist Church, and this picture is the media center at the First Baptist Church. What we really like about the First Baptist Church is there are 12 computers there. There are 3 across and 4 rows, so it's not too difficult for the coaches to get in and assist each of the students if they need to. The facility has a full screen in front. The instructor can stand up in front. The students can see the instructor very well. And in this particular picture, you see a student sitting in the aisle on the left. That's actually one of the coaches who is helping the gentleman at the screen there. And this, of course, is a digital camera class.
Great. That's another great thing, because since we've moved from film to digital, people are going, where do you even get this stuff developed anymore, is always the question.
But as you know, that we've also taught classes at lots of other places in the past. We've used Notre Dame High School. We really quit because they moved over to Apple computers, which is an interesting question. People say, can we teach Apple classes? We don't have a big enough audience to teach Apple classes, so that really doesn't work. We've used Bradley University's labs extensively a few years back. We've taught at many libraries, and you're aware that we did the class for you, but I do classes at the Chillicothe Library. We've used Alpha Park. We've used the Washington Library. We've used the Peoria Heights Library. And we also do special classes. There are people who actually come along and ask us for a class. And if you have a computer lab and you want a class done, we'll look and see if we can come up with the resources to do a special class. And some of those have been at Retrotech, the computer recycler, who is down on up near the corner of Main and Sheridan. And the Southside Office of Concern asked us to do a special class because many of their clients are females, and they wanted a Microsoft Word class because the gals could then get into some kind of secretarial work with that class. Friendship House requested a special class for their staff only, and again we responded there. But with these special classes, it may take us a month or two to get things lined up when our people are available. Because our classes are held in the spring and the fall, we tend to do the special classes in the in-between periods, when the staff would be available to do those special classes.
All right. Well, tell us about your arrangement with Methodist Hospital.
Okay. It was probably in the middle of 2011 when Methodist contacted us about the Encore program. I don't know how old the Encore program is, but Encore is a program by Methodist Hospital where they offer various activities for seniors. And one of the activities that they wanted to offer was computer classes. So they contacted us to see if we couldn't make an arrangement to teach computer classes at the hospital. They have 2 training rooms, each containing 13 computers that they use for training their own staff. And those training rooms are frequently available. And they said, you can use these training rooms for teaching classes if we can make this work out. Well, we checked things out and we found out that it would work. So we've been offering classes at Methodist now, and actually the classes there are twice a week, whereas our normal classes are once a week for 8 weeks. These classes are twice a week for 4 weeks, and we're doing it 4 times a year. So typically, there'll be the 4 classes, and then there will be a morning session and an afternoon session. So we're offering 8 classes at Methodist. We've started out the first year, which was the last quarter of 2011 and all of 2012. In 2012, we actually did have the 4 sessions of 2 classes each, and those were all beginning classes because that was primarily what the seniors needed. This year we've branched out a little bit, and we're offering 1 beginning class, and we're offering an introduction to the Internet class. The beginning class, of course, covers many of the beginning topics, where the Internet class now is going to concentrate on the Internet.
Wow, that's great.
Yes, it is. We're having a good time there with that.
Sounds wonderful. Well, tell me more about the costs for taking a class.
Okay. We are all volunteers, and there is no cost as far as Peoria area SeniorNet is concerned. But there is a cost for, you must become a member of the national organization. To become a member of the national organization, the fee is $40 a year. And if a husband and wife join together, the fee is $30 per person, so it's $60. And renewal fees beyond that first year are $30 a year. So what happens is the membership lasts a year. So if you join SeniorNet in February, which would be the normal time for our classes, you can take 2 classes in February and you can take 2 classes in September because of the year's membership, which gets your cost per class down to $10 a class. And you can't find a better bargain than that.
Absolutely not.
And of course, what SeniorNet needs that money for was for their negotiations with Microsoft, with Adobe, with the people that they did. They have a special agreement. We get discounts from Office Max because we do our duplicating for our class materials at Office Max, and so they've negotiated a corporate contract with them. So they do that's the kind of service that National provides for us, and it's definitely a good service because it does give us a lot of the materials, software, hardware, copying that we need to provide.
Gives you everything you need to keep going.
That's right.
Okay. Well,
now, but I should mention that in addition to that, there is going to be a materials cost for the classes that people take.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the materials cost, when you leave one of our classes, you're going to leave with a notebook full of papers. And the cost runs from $0, some classes there will be no notebook at all, to $8, because some classes you'll be getting 25 pages per class, so you'll have quite a bit of material there. But the material class is published in our website where we have our list of classes and we have our schedule. The materials class is there so the students know what the materials class will be. But that is the only cost that they have in addition to the cost to the national organization for becoming a member there.
Okay.
This
What?
Okay.
Oh, you can talk about this picture?
I'm going to talk about this picture. I don't remember how this came about, but the Chillicothe Library has a display in the front of the library, and I think they asked us if we wouldn't put a display in there because we had been teaching classes at the Chillicothe Library. So we put this display up there, and the top shelf represents some of the different kinds of software, including CDs and DVDs that you can use with your computer. The middle shelf is primarily information, but we do have the digital binoculars on the left-hand side.
Oh, okay.
And we have a waterproof digital camera on the right-hand side of that picture. Digital photography, of course, is one of the things that our students are very, very interested in. And the bottom shelf, we have the more traditional equipment. There's an ordinary camera on the left. There's a small scanner. There's a laptop, and there's a printer, which is the kind of things that people will get involved with once they get familiar with their computers.
Well, that's great. Okay, so what if somebody takes a class and they still don't feel like they've got it?
It's very common for our students to take classes twice. If they want to, they take a class and they go through it and they're still not comfortable that they've learned all that they need to learn about Microsoft Word, for example, they can take that class a second time. There's really no stigma associated with it. Probably nobody will even know that they're taking the class
taking the second time. Yeah.
And they'll just do better.
Okay. Does the class curriculum change?
The class curriculum does change, but before we leave that previous topic, students come into these classes and they sit there for 8 weeks and they don't feel that they're making a lot of progress. But boy, as a coach or an instructor, you can see that they have made tremendous progress. The first week, they can't even use that mouse. By the time they get to the end of the 8 weeks and you say, click on file, they know where the file button is and they don't have any trouble clicking on it. So even though they may be uncomfortable, they're learning. And they may not recognize it, but we recognize it, that there has been a tremendous difference in their skills during that 8-week period.
Right. And I think anybody who's had to learn the new software can identify with that frustration of not even knowing where to start or what to do with this thing, and so that's great. Well, how can people who are interested get more information about SeniorNet?
You can go to our website. We have a local website, the Peoria Area SeniorNet website, and on that website we have the information about our class schedule. Right now, for example, we'll have the information about our spring classes. We've already gone through our orientation and our registration, but mail-in registration is still open until the 1st of March.
Okay.
And there is if you look at the website, there is a forms button in the left-hand column there. You can go to the forms page and you can print off all the pages that you would have received in the newsletter. And then you take and you mail in a couple of those pages to the organization, and we will get you registered for a class if there is still room in that class. We also have a phone number on there. If you would like to talk to somebody, you can give us a phone call and we'll make arrangements that way, and you can get some of that counseling or the positioning that says, hey, here's the right class for you.
Here's where you want to start. Well, and how does a student get into your database so that they get those newsletters?
A student gets into the database by being a student, first of all. Once you take classes, you're added to the database, and we leave you there until you've been inactive for 3 years.
Okay.
If you are not a student and you want to get into the database, you just use the Contact Us button on our screen, and it'll tell you how to contact SeniorNet. And here are the ways of contacting us: by phone, by email, use our web address, or the U.S. mail. And just send us a note or an email saying, I'd like to be added to your database. Give us your name and address, and we will add you to the database, and you will get the information about our spring and fall classes for 3 years.
Great.
Okay? And if you take classes, even longer.
Great, great. Okay, well, you've got these classes, and should people feel like they're going to come in and they're just going to do their work, or they're going to go home, or do you see people becoming friends and
yes,
kind of working as a group?
One of the things that I always tell the students in my classes right at the very beginning, hey, this is not high school. If you're sitting next to somebody and you're doing pretty well and you see that he or she is struggling, reach over and give them a hand. Don't touch their terminal. point to where they should be pointing with the mouse, point to the keys they should be clicking on the keyboard. Let them do it themselves, but give them some help. So that, and we do find that our students form friendships.
That's great.
They tend to come into classes. It's open seating, but they take the same seat over and over again. Don't we all do that?
Yes, yes. They're just comfortable in a certain spot.
And they really do become friends, and they'll leave the class as friends and perhaps create a lifelong friendship as a result of that.
Go to lunch after.
Go to lunch, that's right.
And why do people become coaches? Do you think that they, I mean, a lot of people are just born volunteers, but of all the things you could do, why do this?
I think one of the things that we find as a coach is this, what I've already mentioned to you. We can see a student moving from not even able to use the mouse to becoming quite proficient with it. And our coaches get a lot of satisfaction about seeing the progress that the students have made. It really is a satisfying experience to see that this guy couldn't do anything. And I know that I get messages from my students saying, one of the first things we do in the first class is we work some jigsaw puzzles, and that's to get you familiar with the mouse. I'll get a message from a student who said, I worked all 3 of those puzzles at home after class.
Oh, fun.
And we had a lady who sent another instructor a message saying, I sent my first email all by myself.
Oh,
that type of thing. And when you get
exciting.
a letter or a note like that, it really does make you appreciate how much you have helped that person.
Well, I've been flipping through real fast here some of these other photos you've brought because we are basically out of time. So I am so glad you finally came. I mean, I always have your newsletters when you send them out at the library and information about your classes. And on the Peoria Public Library website, under our Friends link, we have community links, and you can find information about SeniorNet there too. But I think you do such good work for the community. And of course, people then can come in and use our public computers at the library if they don't have one at home anytime they'd like. So thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me.
There's so much going on at the library, and you can find it all at our website at peoriapubliclibrary.org. Join us next week on Information Please.